Ram's midsize truck is an on-again, off-again love story. If you're into the midsize trucks and you like Rams, you're going to feel pretty heartbroken tonight. This is pretty sad. Many were disappointed when the Dakota, great midsize truck, the Dakota left the US market. It was cut out. And many have been waiting for its return. And its return has been discussed. Its return has been announced. And it's on again and off again, like a bad high school relationship where you just can't come to terms and say, you know what, this isn't a healthy relationship for me, or whether it's a bad relationship with, whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever kind of addiction you're dealing with. You know what the on and off again is. And there's been an on and off again because, well, Stellantis they've pushed themselves into a corner, and that corner has not a dime on the ground. And the mid-size truck from Ram is getting canceled, it looks like, even though, the smaller trucks like the Maverick selling great, fantastic. And in this segment, you've got the Tacoma selling about 200,000 units per year. You've got the Ford Ranger, good sales. You've got the Jeep Gladiator, good selling trucks. You got the Honda Ridgeline, not bad. Chevy Colorado, GMC Canyon, Nissan Frontier. You've got some big names in there, some good trucks. The Dakota, I think there's plenty of space to jump into that segment. And it looks like Stellantis is going to need to switch gears. If you're watching this as a live, you know exactly why it's switching gears at the end of the video. If you don't know what I'm talking about because you're watching this as a small episode, at the end of the video, click either left or right. They're going to suggest a video to you, and it's almost certainly going to be a video about, Stellantis being in major trouble, or really Jeep, Dodge, Ram, and Chrysler being in major trouble, and what all that spells and what it smells like. It smells like Huey, smells like crap. So the United Auto Workers Union has kind of unleashed this news because essentially they're publicly calling on Stellantis to keep a commitment the automaker made to reopen its Belvidere assembly plant in Illinois as part of the new master contract agreement forged between the two last year. So I covered the UAW strike, what their demands were. If you're part of the channel back then, thank you so much. And the UAW, Shawn Fain, says, the victories we won last year in our stand-up strike at the Big Three weren't suggestions. They were binding commitments in a union contract. And we as the UAW intend to enforce that contract to the fullest extent. So that's UAW President Shawn Fain, direct quote. That's how we know that there's an issue here. If they're talking about not getting that factory up and running, with the jobs in there and whatnot, and keeping that employment there. If they're not talking about retooling it to build a mid-size truck, if it's not going to be up and running, well, that's because there's no mid-size truck, unless the rare chance that they send production to Mexico or China, but with 100% tariffs being announced by US and Canadian lawmakers. I highly doubt anyone's going to be thinking about sending production over to China right now. It's more like China that's going to be using our assembly plants and our employees to assemble vehicles for them. That's more likely to avoid those tariffs. But the UAW, the head is saying that the Belvidere plant for 2024, it's threatened, that they've been told that it's not a go. And they're essentially saying, well, no, you promised in the contract, written, signed contract, you said it was a go for 2024. So negotiation in regards to jobs, number of jobs, salaries, job security. And now it may not be coming to fruition. The union is saying, Stellantis, you have to pull through with this. But if they don't build a small truck, they don't have anything to build in that factory. Sorry, a medium-sized truck, like the Jeep Gladiator, like the Canyon, like the Ranger, the Tacoma, in that size. So Stellantis has made it really clear that the US market at the moment is doing pretty poorly, not doing so great, losing money. They've even mentioned that they might kill off up to 24 brands, and apparently saying Maserati won't be one of them, from my understanding. So odd, but anywho, Maserati, not the most, not the best reliability. It doesn't have the best history for reliability. And really bad resale. but you can pick them up for cheap used vehicles. So really interesting there. That's a whole different topic. What I did want to cover is that if you're waiting around, if you're saying I'm not going to buy a Tacoma or a Ford Maverick, Ford Ranger, Honda Ridgeline because I want to wait for that Dakota, you might be waiting a lot longer. It's already been gone for a good number of years. It must be what, 20 years almost now, around that the Dakota is gone. Well, you might be waiting another, who knows? You could end up waiting another 20 years before it comes back, because right now things are not going well enough at Stellantis for that to be in the works, unfortunately. So that is our mid-truck news before we get into talking about the Ranger. More power for the Ranger. Yes, we always like it when it's more power. And that's the episode 2 for tonight's live. Just wanted to cover that. A bit of bad news because I think a mid-sized truck. Let us know in the comments section, of course. If the price is too high, many of us would not have been interested. But if a Dakota, a nice mid-sized truck with great styling, and Ram traditionally has big, powerful, great sounding engines. So would you have bought a Dakota if, let's say, they offered a V6? Let us know in the live chat. Would you have bought a Dakota if they would have offered a V8? Thank you very much, M. Peugeot. That will buy me more than a new spark plug. It'll probably buy me 2 new spark plugs for the Toyota MR2. So that's very generous. Thank you very much for the $10. Really appreciate any way that people can donate, whether they're donating their time because they watch the full episode, whether they're donating by subscribing and turning bell notifications on, or if some of you even donate with money, and that's not necessary, but unbelievably kind and really, really appreciated. And Peugeot even offered us a new bumper for the Bronco, but we can't take him up on that offer. That is far too generous, far too kind. And I worry also that the semi-plastic bumper, I could do probably a little bit too much damage to that, because already the steel bumper, thank goodness I've got a steel bumper. Thank goodness I've got steel bash plates. If you want to see them getting bashed around, catch our videos on the Ford Bronco versus the Bronco Raptor versus Wildtrak. So thank you very, very much. And yeah, Outsider Reviews, that's right. If you become a member, you might be invited to stay with Johnny for a weekend. Yeah, or meet up at a restaurant in the States, with members. Some members I've met up in Florida at the restaurant, in North New Hampshire, and not just New Hampshire, North Carolina. I've met up with a couple members, so thank you very much. Yes, you might even stay at my place. So that's right. Thank you for a reminder, Pat. We need to get down and plan a date to do. You come down, you stay down, and we do a live together. I made it down to Quebec City. Now it's your turn to make it over west. Hit the West Road and come on over. So that's our mid-size truck. I know the Ranger, I think a lot comes down to whether people are going to want a Dakota, if it would have existed, would have come down to, would they have thrown a 4-cylinder in it and left it at that? Because right now the Tacoma used to be the king of the hill, the option to get. But the sales might continue to be incredible on Tacoma, probably. But many of us have our doubts about the transmission, huge doubts about the hybrid 4-cylinder engine, because it's just not very fuel efficient. So right now I find the most logical, sensible choice is part of the Ford Ranger's panels are aluminum, so they won't rust. I like that a lot. The 4-cylinder 2.3 liter is proven, is on the Mustang, 2016 Mustang, 2016 Ford Focus RS. That 2.3 liter has proven itself through tons of Ford Explorers on the road with a 2.3 liter. It's a good engine. But you can even now get the 2025 Ford Ranger with a 2.7 liter V6 twin turbo. And that thing is a ton of fun to drive, other than a recall, but won't be affecting the Ranger. So I think Ram would have had to have built this truck with an offering of, I think if they offered it with a V8, they would have sold a ton, but in today's political market, I don't think that could be done unless it's in very small numbers like the Jeep 392. But a V6, the Hurricane engine in this, that would have been sweet. That is actually the Ram buyers. Looks like they're really not adopting or liking that inline 6, the Hurricane V6. But I think that's a great option Solid option, but we're probably not going to see any of that. It's so far right now. Things would really have to turn around at Stellantis, and I think they're just going to lay people off. I'd say there's more chances of Chrysler coming up with a mid-size truck if BYD buys it, or if the grandson of the Chrysler founder buys it. We'd more likely get a truck out of them first. But the 2.7 liter Ranger is incredible, and if you have a lot of money, but not that much, a lot of money, but relatively a great deal, Ford Ranger Raptor. So much less than a Bronco Raptor. But it's a 3-liter V6 twin turbo. And I had my doubts about that engine until with Pat, thankfully, my brother Pat invited me down to drive the Bronco Raptor. And I can now say from a 2.7 liter to a 3-liter, there is a lot of difference. And a lot of that actually is programming and tuning. So if you have a 2.7 liter, no, you can make it. You can go from an exciting engine to blow your socks off engine. Pat, Outsider Review, saying, brr.